All right, here we go. Turbo Boom with Tim Beaudet. I learned just recently how to pronounce your name. Hey Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Everything's good. Actually, I've been looking forward to this all week. We have RobertJDole with us, who's going to be doing the game breaking behind the scenes. We're looking at Robert's screen right now.
Hello there.
Robert's been doing this with me for a few months, and so far we've been having some fun. You'll notice three icons in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. The top one is Tim, the middle one is Robert, and the bottom one is me, Almighty Games. So, here we go. Turbo Boom. This is a game that you've been working on for... how
3
long?
months.
3 months. And I guess you took a little hiatus, little mental health timeout or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, basically taking a small break from it to do some odds and ends that I want to do before the end of the year and kind of get some more inspiration for more levels so that they're not all the same and they actually have some value to the end product.
Mm-hmm. Hey, thanks for the subscribe. Oh, that came from Robert? Oh, that's a gift. I get it. So Midnight Rhino is giving out gift subs today. Thank you, Midnight Rhino. He's been extremely, extremely supportive for both Tim and I. He's a real supporter for game developers. So, Robert, you're going to spend some time trying to break the game. I'll give you a few minutes to get things going here. In the meantime, I want to share a couple of things that I've learned about Tim since I've met him online. Tim and I are both from the state of Maine, which came to a surprise to both of us. I think we just kind of stumbled upon it one day. Now, I guess you're living in Florida now, is that right?
I am indeed currently in Florida, and from Maine. It was definitely a surprise when I first realized you were there, and I was like, hey, that's pretty interesting.
Right, because I mean, most people don't even know where Maine is. It seems like anyway, but yeah, we live in that far southern. Sorry, where am I? The far northeastern state, farthest northeastern state. That place above Boston.
Oh, cool.
So anyway, looks like we got our first. Is this a bug?
I think I know what happened here, and I think, yeah, I might as well say something since you can't do anything.
Okay.
What I believe happened here is you reset your screen resolution without restarting the game. There is a note about that inside the options. It's not
Okay.
very noticeable. And
Easy enough to do.
eventually, I hope to make it so you can just not have to restart the game.
Okay, let's see if it.
Oh, how do you say buoy? Well, I say buoy. That's the way we say it here. Is that how you say it, Tim?
That is how we say it. Buoy.
There we go.
Boys and girls.
Some pronounce it boy.
Boy. What's up, boy? Uh-oh. Oh, is he starting the car?
Yes. He found the reset button already.
So this is what Robert does. I mean, you got to realize he's not. You know this because you've watched my, some of my previous shows. But Robert's not going to play the game like a regular everyday gamer.
I am completely fine with that. It should make it more interesting.
Boom time. What was that? Did I just see a ghost car? Oh, the very beginning, as he was leaving the starting line, was there a second car on the screen? Oh, there it is right there.
There is indeed.
Okay,
There
so
is
that
a
must
ghost
be
car.
previous races or something like that.
That would be his previous run, yes.
Okay.
His previous fastest run, actually.
Oh. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Wasn't expecting to see that. Robert keeps resetting.
Somebody's gonna love the reset button, which is probably the best button in the game.
What is the key for reset?
That would be R by default.
R, yeah. Is there? Again, I should be asking Robert this, not you, I guess.
Sure.
Robert, is there other cars that you can use?
I don't know. I haven't seen any indication that there would be. Looks like just the one.
Okay. Maybe they unlock or something like that. We'll see. So, Tim, how long you been programming and making, even just beyond video games? Were you doing any other types of programming before this?
I started in high school and knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a programmer right from then. So I've been programming for like many years. And most of that has been in games. I do work in software at this time, but most of my experience has been building games.
And I noticed too that you seem to keep coming back to driving games. Is there any reason for that?
My overall goal is to create a physically accurate racing simulator with physics that actually represent reasonably accurately the physics of the real world. And
I would play that
I think
game.
by focusing on racing games, it allows me to build smaller steps toward that overall goal while kind of making a name for myself with like maybe being the racing game guru, I guess.
Yep, that makes sense. You know, one of the things I love racing games, and I'm not just saying that because you're here. It's one of my favorite types of games is anything where you drive a car, especially if the physics feel right. And it doesn't have to be racing. It could be like, for example, one of my favorite games is Mad Max, the one that was released a few years ago. And you don't actually race in that game. You just drive a car and you shoot things from it, like a like a grappling hook or
Yeah, I'm definitely not
sniper
limiting
rifle and stuff like
myself
that.
to only racing, but I am definitely going to have some form of driving element being the primary part of the game. And we found the camera issues.
Before that, I was looking at a collider thing. The top of the car seems like it didn't have the collider.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did see that too. The tire was hanging out on your roof.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read chat
Oh,
right
nice.
now. Big rigs. Oh my god. Somebody mentioned big rigs.
Okay.
Oh, that's the big one that lets you run cars off the road. I think it's called Burnout or something like that.
Did EA do Burnout?
Is it Burnout that I'm thinking of?
Burnout definitely sounds like it fits. I'm just not sure if EA did Burnout.
Oh, I got you.
Yes, they did.
I used to love Burnout. I owned it
Burnout
on the
was good.
Xbox. You know, for me, there's a couple of things that interest me when I'm driving a car in a game. One is like when I'm driving a car in real life, I don't like find myself swerving all over the road and hitting the side rails and things like that. I mean, I've
That's
never
really
ever
good.
hit a side rail. Even like when my first day of driving, I never hit anything. You know, it's not that hard to drive a car. So when you play these games and you find yourself hitting against the, things, involuntarily, it sort of ruins the whole appeal of a driving game for me. And so
Here's the thing with that. You're not driving at speeds that are actually challenging to handle a car. Like the level of physics of the tires when you're driving at normal road conditions, you're well within the limits of those tires. You're not even close to their
yeah,
their
that's something
breaking
I
points.
hadn't really thought about. You're right. Because, like, technically, especially if you're looking at it top down, you're probably going a lot faster than you feel like you're going. Right.
Yes.
So what
Yes.
looks like 25 miles an hour could be like 85 miles an hour.
That, and in this particular game, it's not using the realistic physics. This one's just arcadey. I was looking for a drifting thing, and it It's not exactly where I wanted the physics to be, if I'm completely honest and straightforward with everybody, but it did wind up being fun. It's harder to control than a real car would be, but it works for this particular game.
Okay. I wouldn't stop playing a game for that because I know that this is a pretty ordinary thing. Even Mad Max suffers from this, you know. But the other thing too is I look when I'm playing a game. I always look for cockpit mode as something that interests
My
me.
simulator will absolutely have cockpit mode. This one doesn't have any other camera options because I'm trying to reduce the cost of production.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to find the things that are the highest value while reducing my requirements as a developer.
I understand that 100%. So what's going on there? That car is like a lot bigger than the other one.
So as he's exploding, a shell gets ejected from the car to protect the driver and car within it, which allows him to continue going with a smaller version of the car. But then if you go too far, you wind up with just the frame and you have nothing further.
Yeah, I saw that frame come up, and I was able to complete the level after turning into a frame.
That is indeed a design feature.
Okay.
Okay. Finish skeleton. I missed something that somebody had asked just a minute ago. Oh, he said Midnight Rhino said he lost track of what level it is. Does it actually say the level name? It doesn't. Maybe if you hit escape or something like that. Now these
what
levels.
Was the question? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Rhino was asking. He wasn't sure what level we were on. So, is there a way to tell while you're playing?
You can see them in the level select here.
So we were on level 5, I guess. Now.
Oh, now I'm going to that.
You were probably on level 4 just a moment ago.
Okay.
Why does that not move?
So you made, first of all, you made the car, right? You designed the car in 3D?
I did. I've made everything here.
And that means these tracks, are they modular or is it one solid piece?
They are modular.
Do you plan on, I'm just curious if you plan on having something like a level editor or anything like that?
I've actually built a level editor for this game, and I think that's what's allowing me to place the objects, build the levels as quickly as I am. I have only spent like 30 to 40 hours tops on the level editor, so I really haven't put that much time into it, but I've got kind of the basic features that allow you to get what you need done, even though they're not always as nice as you wish them to be.
You know, I like designing levels, and probably a lot of people watching right now do too. Is this something that somebody can volunteer to do and submit to you?
Kind of, but there's a steep uphill thing, and I would want somebody to, first of all, be really interested in it. Second of all, understand that I'm not going to accept levels that I don't feel fit the quality, or like just because somebody makes something doesn't mean it's going to get accepted. Right. I guess would be.
I would do the same thing. I mean,
a big part of that.
You can't promise just because you made a level that it's going to be in the game. It has to meet your standards.
Right.
And I've done the same thing. I had a game I published years ago. I'm not going to, doesn't matter what the name, let me just say, I made a game years ago called Zombie Balls. It never ended up being that popular, but it has a level editor in it. And the way that I went about making levels for the game was I hired some level editors and had them use the in-game level editor to make the levels. And it worked out really good for me because I didn't use everything that they submitted, but they had a couple of really good ideas that I never would have thought of. And what I did was I brought them into the game and I just fixed them up a little bit because they weren't quite to my standards, but they were very close, and it was very little work for me to go and bring them to the rest of the way.
Yeah, I've definitely TS Joss has created a good handful of levels. and has had lots of grand ideas that, like this track here, has actually been one of his ideas that I then either redid or polished up certain bits of, which is very useful because when you have multiple minds coming together like that, it does bring ideas that one mind would not have thought of alone.
That's one of the things I like most about having somebody else level design, like you were just saying. Look, I mean, I got my way of thinking, you got your way of thinking. We all think differently, so having a couple of cooks in the kitchen in that case really can make a difference. Now, what about the looks of the game? Like right now, you've got so far I've seen this one, what do you call, style or graphic set or something like that. Somebody had just mentioned, are you going to have ice on, like that kind of environmental obstacles?
I was hoping to be able to get to have different environments and whatever. I don't think it's going to be able to happen with the amount of time I have kind of budgeted myself for production here.
Look what Robert just did.
He got over it, and he found the skid marks over the air.
Yep, got it.
So you think because of budget and time, you might not be able to squeeze some of those sort of feature creep ideas in there?
Yeah. It will add some value for having different visuals, and obviously ice could probably have a little bit slipperier physics or something without too much issue either. The problem is it takes a lot more for those graphics than my abilities are good at with rapid succession, so it would take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the amount of time it's going to add is going to be enough value for it to actually be
now
worth
we got some real
on.
obstacles here. Almost medieval traps, right? Almost like a gauntlet.
Indeed, you can get pushed.
Boom.
There we go.
That's the name, right? Turbo boom. Now, Robert, I gotta ask.
Yourself.
Question to Robert.
What?
We're watching you die over and over again. Are you doing that on purpose, or is it difficult?
I'm doing it on purpose. Definitely.
Okay. We want to make sure that Tim's game is not super hard.
What was that?
What is that red and white barrier right there? Just a blockade or something? Like a street barrier?
I'm going to continue trying not to answer questions like that for now.
Okay. All right, so
Simply
I'll just try to describe what I see. It looks like a street, like a concrete street barrier to me that's been painted red and white. So, you can use that. If that's correct, then good for you. If it's not, then think about that, I guess.
Exactly. That's why I want not to answer them. For at least a little bit. Ooh, that was neat. I hadn't seen that done before.
What's that?
Jumping back to the start from near the end of this track.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be interesting if the crates or objects that were, that could be breakable, if you could actually make them fall apart and break? And
there is actually part of that in planning and somewhat develops, probably not in this preview though. So the answer to that is yes, I think things breaking apart would be great, and it's already been started.
Okay, cool. That oil slick, Robert, is that slippery?
It is. It keeps you slick for a few seconds, then lets you go again.
So it's not just while you're in it; it's a little bit more
It's
like
after
a timer
effect.
thing.
Yeah.
And the background that we're looking at is just filler, or is that what the game is going to look like?
That's what the game's going to look like. There might be a little bit. There's still some more work on it to be done. Maybe put some things in certain areas if there are big bland areas, but otherwise it's just you're floating above water and you don't want to fall in.
Okay. I was watching, what the heck was it? I don't know. I was watching something on YouTube today, and I don't remember what it was, but the guy was playing the "Don't Step on the Lava" game. Don't, like you do with the living room when you're a kid, where you throw pillows and stuff on the floor.
Indeed.
For some reason, I was just thinking this game could probably use that idea a little bit. I mean, I could see the opportunity to put like lava or something dangerous in there instead of having just the water.
That was actually part of one of my ideas with the whole other environments. A cave mountain system with lava all around you was absolutely one of the environments I really wanted to do. But as I said, I don't think it is going to make sense given how much time it's going to take me to do. Unfortunately, part of making games as a business is trying to balance out effectively what comes into development cost per the value the player gets, and it's definitely a hard, tricky thing to do. But I think it's just going to cost me too much for how much value it's going to give the player. I don't think it's going to increase the sales enough to make that worth it at this particular point in time. Now, I could come back and make Turbo Boom 2 at a later date and add to it all those things that I wished I could have done in this one. And who knows, maybe that happens. Probably not as like right after Turbo Boom am I going to be working on Turbo Boom 2. It's probably going to be a couple projects in between, but we can always see.
Uh-oh. I think, just looking at it, you've probably spent a lot of time bug testing this already.
There has been a fair bit of time bug testing it, and there are, like, most of the things we've been finding, the tire marks in the air and the crate thing on top of the car, these things are fairly known already. But it's always good to get a new set of hands on it, and we probably will still learn new things. There's still some time left.
Did you go to school at all for programming?
I did. I went to Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida for game design and development.
You think that's made an impact on your abilities, or?
It definitely was acted as a springboard for me to get all the knowledge I needed. It worked out well for me. It was absolutely a very expensive endeavor in life, but it's at this point all paid off. And I'm not going to say it's for everybody, but for me, it worked out great.
Sounds good. I mean, I don't usually hear people say I guess a couple of streamers will mention it once in a while, but I don't usually hear people mention that they went to school for game design or anything like that. I
think it's only now becoming more popular. When I went, there were exactly 2 schools that offered it. And in probably the last 5 or 10 years, it's been getting to be more and more schools are offering.
By schools, you mean like regular colleges, or?
Possibly regular colleges. I think there's a lot more programs out there. Not all of them created equally, obviously. So definitely do your research if you are looking for a school that's doing a game design program. The other thing I would say is, if it's specifically game design, that I'd be very wary about that. Go for game art or game development. Sure, study how to design a game and like what makes a fun game. That's part of the studies you want, but come out with tangible skills as well. Ooh, that's a good one.
I got it just at the right angle.
This camera feels great.
Sorry. That's what we do
I
here.
there's a certain angle of the car that it then resets you back to upright,
Yep.
and I just sunk my trunk, it looks like, into the terrain.
Interesting.
Not holding down any buttons right now.
Are you able to repeat that?
Oh, I'm sure it could be repeated. I don't know how I'm going to fix that because that'd be a bullet thing. I mean, and me resetting the car. I guess I need to reset the car by lifting it up first, and then you won't be inside.
Yeah, I'm gonna reset.
So Dragio5 asked how many years was that, Tim? I think he was referring to the college stuff.
Full Sail is an accelerated program, so I got a 4-year degree, but I only took 21 months to get it. And as I said, that can work for some people. It doesn't work for everybody. Their dropout or non-complete rate is significantly high. I think it was like 50, 60, or 70% when I was there.
Wow.
Probably even higher, maybe. My starting class had 110 people, and when I graduated, there were, I think, 20 to 23 of us.
Is that like a semester or something like that?
It's every month is a new semester.
Okay.
If you want to try taking it to terms of a regular college, which you really can't. So every month you get packed in. You get 2 classes, and they pack in basically 3 months of whatever that class would be within that 1 month.
Get her done, right?
Pretty much. And if you fail a class because of your own, like you weren't able to retain the information or something, like you were putting in the effort but you failed a class, they would allow you to retake the class for free. In fact, I had to take advantage of this for the math class because I suck at math tests, and the math teacher was doing tests unfairly, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. So I did have to retake the math course, and again, they did they held up to their end of the bargain and did allow me to take it for free. Like I didn't have to repay the course for it. However, if you fail for attendance, you would have to pay for the retaking the course. And to fail by attendance, you only have to miss 2 classes.
Ugh. Wow.
Because it's so rigorous, like you miss 2 classes, you miss more than a week or maybe even more than 2 weeks of a typical college. Like that's how much information they're just shoving at you. And the reason
Robert,
why I
can
say
you
it
play
doesn't
that
work for
level again?
everybody.
Sorry to cut you off, Tim.
The reason it doesn't work for everybody is because they're throwing information so fast at you, you really don't have a lot of time to practice it. I am crazy, and outside of school, I was always working on my own games and always applying whatever we learned in school. So while other people did their homework and then went out to, I don't know, play video games or hang out with other friends or party or whatever they were doing, I was at home working on a game, reinforcing whatever I had learned, which I think is why that program worked out well for me.
Well, I was watching. I was listening and watching at the same time, and Robert had something that caught my attention. When you go under a bridge here,
Yep.
the car kind of, you lose sight of the car momentarily.
Yep.
Robert, does that play out okay, or does it feel?
Say that again.
When not sometimes, when you drive under a bridge, you lose sight of your car momentarily while you're under the bridge. How does that play out? Is that not a big deal, or?
It doesn't look like there's anything under the bridges that would destroy the car, so I mean it's fine.
Just a matter of just waiting till you get to the other side of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not playing the game, so I can't really tell. I can't feel it, but looking at somebody play it, it seems like it would be cool if the bridge kind of went translucent while you're under it or something like that.
We started that feature early on, and in fact, if you watch the trailer very closely, you can see that feature in it. But it wasn't like there's still some artifacts with that feature that would have a lot more work to iron out. So
It was
it's
problematic.
it's problematic. We're just going to design around it by not putting stuff under bridges, making sure that you can see the obstacles coming up, and basically just allow you to drive under the bridge and call it good. I feel like most like enough games have got away with you just drive under a bridge and temporarily you don't see your car, but it's usually a non-problem.
Okay, that's fine. Does any of your, I guess we'll find out, but I haven't seen anything that loops around yet where you count laps. Do they all just have a start and a finish?
Yes, they all have starts and finishes.
And another question too: are there any opponents in this, or is he just in a single player mode?
It is only a single player mode time trial, but there is multiplayer in that time trial as you can compete against the leaderboards.
Okay. What's going on here, Robert? This is interesting. This is different than what we've seen so far. I'm going to have to come visit your channel and figure out how you do these skid marks like that.
Actually, that wasn't too hard. What's hard is getting them to stay off the air.
Is it a decal? I'm just curious.
It's kind of like a decal. It's a kind of specialized object.
I'll look into it. I've designed a couple. Well, I started designing a couple of car games. I showed you in the past, at least one of them that I remember.
Aha.
Oh.
Aha. I missed it.
But the big difference between what I'm doing and what you're doing is you actually, from what I understand, designed the vehicle controller, where I'm using at least in the work that I've done, I'm using the standard assets vehicle controller from old versions of Unity, which is garbage.
Yeah, so I did design the physics myself, but I'm using Bullet for the physics framework, so it handles all the real powerful stuff behind the scenes, like all the collision and such. But that's actually what wound up into this conundrum where the physics aren't quite what I was initially expecting them to be, because I was fighting the ability to write my own physics while using a physics engine. It's sometimes a pain in the butt to do that. You can't always do what you want with systems like that.
I was looking on the Unity Asset Store for some kind of vehicle controller that I could buy that was a little bit more state of the art than the free Unity standard assets one. Is there anything on there that you've seen that you thought was cool?
I don't know, because I don't use Unity.
Oh, but wow, I didn't even think about that. That's a good question. What are you using here?
I am using my own engine and framework in C++ and OpenGL.
Wow, that's impressive.
And as previously mentioned, I do use Bullet for the physics, but everything else is basically me.
Okay, you just gained a new merit from me. I had no idea. I thought you were using Unity all this time.
Nope.
That's crazy. Why in the world would I think that?
But if there's no vehicle things, I'd like to know that no vehicle things on the asset store. I'd like to know that. Maybe I could make one and help out.
They do have some. I just I was looking at a demo of one about a week ago, and I was considering using it in my game, but I played the demo and I was like, it's not a whole lot better than, not a tremendous difference between what I've already seen. I'm looking for something that is just, like I said, a little more state of the art. All right, let's catch up with the chat here. Let's see, I missed a lot. Tim using Unity, laugh. Yes, Joss. Deleting.
So based on the vehicle not able to go past a certain angle.
Yep.
At the tip of this, it seems like it's doing a destruction.
Indeed. Perhaps we shouldn't allow it to go all the way up to a 90-degree angle for you. And then you just fall off the other end.
If the car is meant to have a certain angle where it has the destruction on it, then that would make sense. If it's able to flip around, then it might be fixed.
It is presently doing this more for when you fall or something to protect you from getting into a place where you can't drive is actually the real
Okay.
reason it's doing this. But I don't think it's worth trying to add more smarts to it so that in some cases you can pass that angle, in some cases you can't. I just think that
Gotcha.
that's going to convolute things and wind up with more edge cases of, oh, I actually can't drive in this particular situation now.
Gotcha. Now I just need to finish this level. Eh.
This looks actually pretty hard. What level are you on, Robert?
The Pinter. Or, I forget the name. Hang on. Tony
Oh,
Falcon.
they have names. Okay, Tony Falcon.
Yeah.
The
They do have
leaderboards
names,
are
but they're
live.
not displayed in here.
What's funny about this game, though, I find, and it's not really funny, I guess. You're using like your obstacles and stuff. Like I said earlier, almost remind me of medieval traps, like the spikes, the blocks that push you into the pits. And have you considered adding more, like things like swinging pendulum traps or things
I
like
did
that?
want to have a swinging hammer. Was actually one of the obstacles I wanted, and there is some potential for more obstacles to come in. I wouldn't say a high number of them, but they're basically I've proven out all the features I want from my obstacles. Now I just needed to make a couple more.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh boy. So this is all new for me. I had no idea you actually designed your own engine.
I have indeed.
I've been hearing people talk a lot about Godot lately. So Unity and Unreal has always been like the two big ones, and then it feels like Godot is kind of like a big runner-up right now. And I have a feeling, this is just my opinion, I have a feeling Godot is going to end up overtaking both of them eventually, probably within the next 5 years, but we'll see. So
I think it would take a lot for Godot to overtake them, but it may, assuming it keeps the traction, it may become a competitor in the space.
it might be just a 3-way competition instead of a 2-way, maybe. It doesn't really mean anything right now, but I mean, if we all had a looking glass into the future, then it would probably help us decide, well, at least the rest of us, not you, Tim, it would help us decide which engine we wanted to use if we were just starting out, you know. But do you have any recommendations on somebody just getting going with game dev?
My recommendation is just get started and keep moving. Especially if you're just getting started, there's no real need to huff and puff over which engine somebody else is using or which one should I use. Just grab one and start. And I mean, if you're brand new, starting with Unity, Unreal, Godot, or Game Maker, any of these fairly well-known engines they're all going to have a community behind them that you can ask questions and look up tutorials. And that's more important for somebody getting started than so-and-so used this engine or so-and-so said that engine's bad or whatever. Like, just getting started and doing is
so
way
quit
more
talking
important.
about it and just get doing it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I get a lot of you know, because I used to stream a lot more than I do now, and I still have a lot of people that chat with me offline, even though I'm not online as much as I used to. And I get people asking me advice on things like that, like which engine should I use, or is Blender any good? And of course, I would say it is because that's what I use, but it doesn't really matter what somebody else thinks. In my opinion, the best thing to do is go and figure it out for yourself. Because if I
That's
like,
kind of where I'm saying with just get started, just start.
yeah,
Because if you just get started, you will figure it out. And if you don't like it, well, then you'll now know what you don't like about it. You can change it.
let's see. I think I just saw a question in the chat. What was it? At Tim, would you consider using any of the engines available? Have you used any of them recently? I'm kind of curious to find out that too.
I haven't used any of them recently. Last time I used Unity was 5 years ago to just give it a test and try it out. I mean, I have no real issues or anything with it, but it's not my workflow. I prefer, I guess, my own crazy workflow. Would I consider using any of them? Yes, I would consider it, but it would have to be a fairly dire situation for my indie adventure, and that would be the reason I'd be doing it. Part of my indie adventure is wanting to do things in my way, which is making my own tech.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
obviously,
I don't feel like
you don't make your own 3D modeling engine. You must use Blender or something like that, right?
Right.
But when it comes to game engines, you know how to do it, and you probably feel better, more comfortable doing that than.
Right. I mean, I'm going to use tools to assist my development where it makes sense, but like I said, if I found that I was in kind of a dire need and my last chances of my indie adventure were there on the table, I would perhaps at that point reconsider if the better option is to use the pre-built engines.
Mm-hmm.
I think short term, the answer is yes on that. I think long term, me making my own tool set and as it gets more and more polished for what I'm building, I will be able to outperform on those other engines. Now, that's going to take a while, but the thing is, Unity, Unreal, Godot, all of these engines are built very generically. They're built for any type of game, whereas my engine is more built for racing games. It's more built for what I'm making and how I make it. So it fits me.
Okay. Actually, I kind of feel what you're saying here. What I'm gathering from this is by making your own game engine, you're not making it for just one game. You're making it to make, because you're interested in making racing or driving games, any kind of driving game that you can imagine, be able to use the same work that you've been working on and not have to start over from scratch every time. And every time you make a new game, it's going to be even more robust than the last one was.
Exactly.
Got it. And eventually, I guess what it sounds like, you think, or I probably would agree with you, this effort is going to pay off because eventually, hopefully, your work on this is going to be better than what you'd be able to achieve in some of these, these big game engines.
It's the objective. This is kind of interesting, backing up the ramp.
Oh.
I don't think that's going to have enough speed at all.
Dang it.
Dang it.
Reverse is much slower than forward, and I think you need the speed for that gap.
Have you thought of driving backwards like this, though?
I mean, as far as getting yourself out of the walls, yes. And that's one reason why it goes so slow, is because it allows you to get out of the situation where you need to reverse, but it doesn't need to be fast because that's not the way you're racing here.
Yeah.
I do have a question for Robert, and this is going to be almost impossible, I think, for you to find, but there are leaderboards, and there is a way to compete against the ghost of a leaderboard.
I have not found that way, but I have seen the leaderboard.
Do you want to try seeing if you can find that? And
yeah, after this though, I noticed that the music has stopped looping.
I can't hear the music, so that's interesting. The
Okay.
music has stopped looping. So you got no music right now?
It stopped looping sometime in the past. I'm not sure how long ago, but I noticed it on a previous map. I just didn't really notice it enough to say anything. But
Okay.
I have sound, but I have no music right now.
And restarting the level doesn't bring it back in?
Correct.
Oh, interesting. That's
So,
new, I think.
so at a certain point, it just stops looping, and then until you go to the level select or the next map, I believe, it doesn't come back.
I should probably chime in here. If I remember, the same exact thing happened to you, Robert, on our last game that we reviewed. Is that right?
I don't know.
What do you? I wonder what you're using for an audio card. If that would help Tim at all.
Just standard onboard, whatever it comes with.
So onboard audio.
Yeah.
Most people have that
Okay.
anyway.
So let me go.
Jaco, Jabo. How do you say that? Jabako. Sorry
I
if
say
I'm saying it.
Jaboko.
Jaboko. Okay, there we go. That rolls off the tongue a little easier. He says if it spawned so many sound events, it kind of did a bad on the audio system. That's what I when we encountered this last week with the different game. That's what I was kind of suggesting was that you can only play. I think the number is 32 by default. You can only play 32 sound clips simultaneously. I could be wrong about that. Oh, that's in Unity. Never mind. This doesn't even apply to you. But it could be a situation where the sound card only allows 32 layers of audio and you've overexceeded it. So it had to throw one of them off of the list. And which one would it throw off? The oldest one, which would be the music playing in the background.
In my case, I think it's more ending a level. We muted stuff, and it might be that coming in. And then not unmuting for some reason. I think that's what's going on there. I've had some troubles with it in the past. I'm not 100% sure if it was in this build or not that I've had issues with, but yeah.
I know
something to pay attention to. I wrote it down, definitely.
Right, good. Well, I know that that's a factor in Unity because I've had to deal with it myself. And again, I have to keep reminding myself that you're not using Unity now. But
my engine will, if it runs out of channels to run sounds on, ignore the sound that you're requesting right now and print out a big fat warning so that I am aware that that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm missing something here.
What is it that you're missing?
How the ghost of the leaderboard
Yep.
is doing like smooth turning.
They may have used a controller or steering wheel on this particular level.
Interesting. I hooked up my controller, but I didn't see the controls work at all on it. Is something that I have to remap, or is it?
I'm trying not to answer questions.
Okay, never mind.
It's really hard. It's really hard.
So in the chat, they're saying use controller and steering wheel or something like that. Tim, you actually have the full setup, and I've seen your setup on video. You have the steering wheel, the pedals, and everything, huh?
I do. I really enjoy sim racing, which is that physically accurate racing versus kind of like the fun arcadey physics that you're feeling in Turbo Boom. And to do that well, you definitely want the full setup steering wheel and everything. I even have a shifter, and that was actually the reason why I got the triple monitor set up in the beginning, is to have the peripheral vision that you would have while driving.
That must be awesome. A little envious of your gaming station.
I'm envious of my gaming station. But one thing I tell people all the time is I did not build this overnight. This has been multiple years of very slowly adding to it. And Jaboko mentioned that I have an ignition key. as well that isn't quite on the cockpit, and I actually need to buy another key thing because the ignition exploded in my hand one day for some reason. But basically allows you to turn a key like you would in your car.
Interesting. So I actually one day came into your channel while you were racing. It was a while ago, but I don't remember what game it was, but it might have been.
It was probably iRacing if it was doing any serious racing.
It wasn't. I don't think so. I think it was. I can't remember the name of it.
Rocket League?
Nope.
Interesting. Those are the two games that I played.
It. I can't remember it. What can you think of anything else? I have to look at my Steam list because it's a game that I have on Steam. It was like one of these cross country racing kind of thing.
I have a couple Steam games that I was using as review, but I can't think of any like that. Live for Speed, Need for Speed. I played a bunch of games for research, yeah.
I just can't think of the name of it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Well, I consider myself a fairly good driver, but I think you got me. You could probably take me in a race. You seemed like it could be a part, that you're using steering wheel and all that kind of stuff too. And I'm using. Years ago, I actually used to use a steering wheel and the pedals and all that stuff. I used to have all that. I didn't have multiple screens, but I had. And what I was doing, this is pre-2000, like 1998, 1999, somewhere in that time frame. And the game that I was playing most back then was Carmageddon. Did you ever get into that game?
I haven't, but I have been suggested a lot of that game during my design ideas. I got a question for Robert.
What's that?
How does that feel to you?
The way that I destroy every split second here?
Yes.
It's
not
weird.
immediate. It does wait. It gives you a momentary thing, which is usually enough to get off the spike strip. But I'm noticing you're stopping on them, and I'm kind of wondering what that feels like.
It feels kind of awkward, and the sound actually plays every time it breaks apart as well.
Yes.
Like even after it breaks apart, you can still hear it.
That is correct, which does need fixing. Good job.
So it's too bad that you never actually played Carmageddon. One of the things I liked about Carmageddon, and this is something that you see in a lot of driving racing games, is that the car took physical damage and you could actually repair it while you were driving. Oh, you're writing a note. Gotcha.
I thought about adding repairs or other little pickup type things here, but again, that goes back to the production cost for value. And initially, the car was going to get faster as it got smaller. But then because it's a time trial based game, I didn't want to just have every replay be somebody smashing their car as quickly as they can to get the small car that goes faster. And on top of that, it didn't feel right from like a playing standpoint. So the car actually gets a little bit slower as you get smaller, which I feel like makes it easier for the less intense player. Because if you've got smaller, it's a little bit harder to hit some of the obstacles, so it gives you a little more space. And by going a little bit slower, it allows you to have a little bit more control over where you're going.
Less slidey, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but for the person trying to get that high speed, they're not going to want to even lose a single shell because that's going to throw it all off.
Well, obviously you got a long ways to go on your game. This isn't. We had talked about this before. Are you going to have any features like ridiculous features like pinball bumpers or bouncy or anything like that?
The game is actually feature complete and pretty close to what you'll see from the in-game. Now,
Oh.
all the UI stuff needs some significant work, as you can tell right here, but the visuals and features are fairly complete. I just need to make a whole lot more levels, couple more obstacles for things to remain interesting, and wrap it up.
So if I wanted to do some level design work for you, what would that be like?
We would have to talk about that at probably a different time, but I got a document that kind of runs somebody through what my track builder is like and how to use it.
Okay.
I'd be able to give that to you and let you play with it. It's also not significantly. It's not like install Unity and make things. Let's put it that way. There is going to be effort involved and not insignificant amounts.
Okay. Well, anyway, we can talk later about that. But the reason why I brought it up here is because if there's anybody watching who thought that they could make some really cool levels for this, would you want them to contact you, or is that what you're looking for, or is it just you think it would be more?
I mean, I would, if somebody's interested in doing that, I would like to hear from them, I guess, but I'm no guarantees. Like, we could discuss it and see how I feel about the whole situation and then go from there.
Okay. Anybody in the chat want to ask any questions? Let's see, scrolling through the log here now.
Whoman Bean asks, have you thought about not continuing to bust up the car after the first hit? So the settings sitting on a spike strip would only be a single hit. And I have thought about it. That's kind of why I was asking Robert how weird it felt.
I think maybe a little bit of velocity might be required for the additional hits. I'm kind of with Whoman on that.
I mean, you still have your velocity. It doesn't stop your velocity, and usually you're off the spike strip by the time that thing triggers again. But when you do sit on it, and there are a couple situations you can get yourself into that happen like that, it will continuously trigger. Yeah, but there's thoughts there, I guess. Have to keep considering.
So Midnight Rhino just asked, in a nutshell, can we see Robert try to do a full effort on a level run or something like that without actually trying to break it?
I never said I was good at games.
Right.
I mean, I can try the first level without crashing, but that's about it. That's as far as my skill goes.
It's not easy when you're talking about competing on the leaderboards. I can absolutely attest to that. In fact, I'm the developer, and my name is on the leaderboards in very few places.
Yeah.
Your name, really?
I am pretty awful at this game. As far as trying to get the raw speed, because here's a little secret that some people might not know. To go the fastest, you don't always want to be hitting the throttle in this game. In fact, to turn, if you're off throttle, you might be able to go a little faster without drifting, because drifting slows you down. And obviously touching any little obstacle, even the smallest amount, slows you down significantly too.
Yep.
Actually, I just remembered a time that I hit an orange cone once with my Mustang. I was so mad about it because, well, first of all, like I said early on in this interview, I can't think of at that moment, I couldn't think of a single time I ever hit anything with my car. But this just came to mind. I did hit an orange cone once, and I felt like such a heel. Like, like, how did that happen? Obviously, I didn't see it, but it's very rare as a real driver to hit anything. But these kind of games, these are there for a reason, because you're taking sharp corners, you're going at a fast speed. This is level 1?
This is level 1, yes.
So Clown of Fire says, have any publishers contacted Tim about the game yet?
I reached out to 25 or 30 publishers back in September. I got a handful of responses. Most of them were not for us right now or that sort of thing. But most of those actually came back with more information that showed that they actually took the care to look through my information, which kind of suggests that I packaged things up well. I did get one publisher on the hook that went back and forth a couple times, but wound up basically I'm too risky by using my own custom engine. So one of the downsides to using your own engine, besides the time cost of building it, is the fact that it does add risk to those you might work with.
So your engine has been in development for longer than this game, is that right?
Absolutely. My engine has been in development since 2012, 2013 for this edition, but there is some pieces of code that have been with me since practically 2004.
Wow, that's quite a long time. We're looking at almost 6 years here. So Tim, if you can come up with a ratio of how much time you spend furthering the development of your engine versus spending on this particular game, like using the engine and advancing the progress of the game, what do you think the ratio is?
It's almost certainly less than 15%, probably even less than 10%.
On pursuing the engine?
For pursuing the engine. While I'm making my game, I am obviously fixing some bugs on the engine or maybe even adding an engine feature or two, but it's mostly focused directly towards the game.
So I do a little bit of this. I'm not making my own engine, but I have something that some of my viewers know as my starting point template in Unity.
That was strange.
Oh, you got something, Robert?
I got a shell removed for landing.
Yep, this is a known one.
Okay.
It is unfortunate. That's your first one. That's your first shell removal from landing. That's actually remarkable that you've been that far without getting it. I will go ahead and write it down because we need to know about these still, but I mean, it's written down several times. It's just, I want to know everything that got noticed here.
All right, so as I was saying, in my starting point template, whenever I want to update that template, which is basically like what it sounds, it's a starting point template. Anytime I make a new game, I'm going to use that version of my the latest version of my starting point to build the game from. But the problem is, while I'm working on another, like a very specific game, if I want to update my starting template, I have to do all the editing in the game that I'm working on and then bounce over to the starting point template and do all the editing again in this other Unity project. There was a reason why I brought this up. Yeah, I know what it is. Your game engine. So when you want to make an update to your game engine, is it something that happens? Do you have to edit two projects, or is it something that you can?
With the game engine stuff specifically, no. But I do have a template system, kind of like what you're talking about, that gets a default game shell going. It doesn't do as far as menus and stuff for me right now because I feel like that I haven't really nailed that down to a place where I'm super happy with it. But it is something that if I'm changing anything about how the project gets built or how a major add a major component to the template, I do need to do it in both the project that I'm currently working on and the template project.
So that answers my question. Yeah, you're in the same situation as me, where having sort of like a master file requires you to do some editing twice sometimes.
But presently, this is like my third actual game project that I've really put really been focused on as far as a game for people to play. Archer being the first, Tombstone Boom maybe a second, Rally of Rockets, and then this one. I guess this is 4. But all of those have different systems of dealing with the menu, and I'm trying to find the system that works best for me still. I think I'm getting close. There's definitely bits of the last two projects in this particular one, but it's also got a fair bit of exploration to go.
This is something from a few minutes ago. Nui, Neui is the name, asked on the times, are the milliseconds always multiples of 10? If so, what about removing the 0?
So right now the times are always multiples of 10. I plan on... The reason they're multiples of 10 is because that's the physics step. The physics step is every 10 milliseconds, everything gets simulated, stepped forward in time, and it will check if you cross the finish line each step, and on the step that you did, that's your time. What I need to do still is make it so that on the step that you finished your time, how far into that step did you finish it? Was it really early on, which would be like a 0.1, or was it like a 0.9? And that would add that information into the milliseconds for the timer.
Okay. Human Bean had just asked if you had submitted a pitch to fig.co.
I'm not 100% sure if they did or didn't come across my radar when I was looking for publishers. One thing I did is I looked at a lot of publishers. I think our first list had 100 or more, and I dug through that to find publishers that I felt enjoyed or published racing games, publishers that at least had some form of action-y games, things that would sort of fit the Turbo Boom feel. There's no point in approaching a publisher that does RPGs with Turbo Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things went off the list on that.
So you're very targeted when you went searching.
Yeah, because I mean, otherwise you're just wasting their time and yours. You're just going to get a no or no response. It's not going to do anybody any sense of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess in a way you're saving your own time since you're not pre-filtering, but yeah. It also sounds a little bit better when you say you sent out 25 emails and got so many responses back versus I sent out 100 and got the same amount of responses back. Like,
so Robert, this you've been busy driving. Sintasu. Boy, I'm bad with these names. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, Sintasu, you got it right.
Sintasu. Robert, he's asking if view the replay of this track. And now that was a while ago, so I don't know what track you were on.
I think the track he was talking about was Construction Zone. Yeah, Construction Zone it was. Oh, you need to play with a leader.
What?
Oh, interesting.
What happened?
Magic is what happened.
I see what's going on here.
This is... I have not been able to do it yet. It's a little magical.
What do you drive off into the... Oh, I see what happened. Yeah, I'm kind of slow on this, guys.
I will tell you that oil slick is 90% how this time went so well. He's using that oil slick to slide his car all the way around and point in the right direction by the time he regains the grip. And that part of the trick is extremely difficult. I don't know how it has worked out.
Oh, hard to repeat.
Hard to repeat unless you're one of the people that can. So this is going to be covered up eventually. My design is going to include basically a perfect score, meaning you didn't touch any obstacles, including oil slicks, spikes, or whatever.
Oh, look at that.
And that will wind up covering this.
You got so lucky on that.
Not to mention, we might also cover it with another wall segment over there or something.
Yeah.
Sintasu, thank you for pointing that out. That's pretty good.
There used to be a couple where you could do a wall ride and basically hop up on the wall, do this balancing act where somehow you're able to move forward, but you really can't give yourself momentum. So you have to have enough momentum on the wall, and then you'd be able to jump off and cross into the finish line at another part of the track while skipping most of it. That has been closed since. So I have a question. This is probably a little unique to, or probably not what you do on the show very much, but I do have more levels that I've designed than the ones you've played. And
Okay.
if you're interested in playing more of them, I can go find the installer for that particular edition of the game. It does show some more of the newer content. This particular build that I have right now is the one that I sent out to publishers. So it's basically the best of the best that I had. There is another build with some more testy-like levels that some of them are nice polished levels and some of them are a little more testing.
I think Robert, I can't speak for you, so let's let Robert answer that. But we have time, as far as I can see. We still have like an hour of our planned show. What do you think, Robert?
Oh yeah. I didn't know you were waiting for me. Sorry about.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll find a link and toss that up there.
We got to be careful. Well, they won't be able to see the link as long as I put the screen over before Robert.
I mean, if they see the link, it's not the end of the world.
I suppose.
This one is technically a public thing anyway.
Okay.
I just need to find it. Where is that link?
Tim's Nightmare Truck or TRK? What's that?
Oh, we're not doing that one. That's part of a really early edition.
I'm laughing because somebody had mentioned Big Trucks earlier. That's like the worst game I've ever seen in my life.
I think that's the running joke with it.
Yeah. I've never seen it personally. I've only seen the video online, which probably everybody has seen.
Okay, now where'd Discord go?
It's buried.
Yeah, Linux is actually being really weird to me right now.
So let's talk a little bit too while we're setting that up. Yeah, I was going to ask you. You have a friend that hangs out with you in your stream. So anybody who's doesn't know you, maybe they're just learning about you through this YouTube video or this live chat. Yeah, you have a friend that you're pretty well known. Hence the icon that we see here of the bird. Can you tell us a little bit about? I don't even know your parrot's name. Is it a parrot?
The icon that I have here is Blackbird, and that's basically my internet handle for, I don't know, a long time.
Uh-huh.
And then I do have a monk parakeet named Monkey who streams with me, basically. So every time I'm streaming, he is generally sitting on my shoulder and whispering in my ears how I should be doing something. I, after all, have to make the games to make money to feed him. So
yeah, I'm a little amused by that. You even have scripts that you've written that somehow include Monkey in conversations and stuff. People seem to really love that about you.
Yeah, there's a virtual game on my stream where Monkey will fly around and people tell him to go back to the perch. And if they have points to do so, they can also have the virtual monkey poop all over my face because the real one does it all the time. Not on my face, but poops all over the place. This is the problem with a bird. Birds poop.
Well, we do too. We just have a more designated area for it.
Touche.
I'm reading through the chat right now. Saro Veda, thanks. He says, loves the show. See you around lots of dev streams. Yeah, I'm trying to be more social lately. I've been dropping in on people and saying hi. You know, it's actually a little harder than I thought to get people to come and be a guest on a show like this, because unless they know you, it's
Yeah.
hard for them to, to like, who is this guy? Why do I want to be on his show? Kind of, I get a little standoff. I don't dare ask them until I feel like I've built up some conversation with them, and so I've been more social lately.
It definitely helps, and it is it's worth being social in the community. That's something that took me a little bit to get into as well with Twitch. Is I used to just stream however I streamed and not really pay attention to anything further, but I over time kind of started integrating myself with the community and um finding out what other people are up to. Robert, just to let you know, it does say that you're finished up to 8, but you may have new levels between 2 to 6, even though they have trophies and everything, because this is a different build. This is part of the. Actually, no, some of these are going to be the same because they're. Yeah, some of them are going to be the same. Some of them might be different. It might be worth just quickly running through them for different ones.
Sorry I missed the first part of that, Robert. I kind of spaced out a little bit. We got you now on the screen.
I did notice that he played the first level, which was way wider, and he didn't have any troubles avoiding the obstacles.
That was actually this one right here. It was the first one that said it was locked or something like that.
Oh, interesting. That wasn't number one? Oh, interesting. What the heck did I do?
So here's also something that happened. When I started the game, or when I was installing it rather, it didn't ask for a directory, and it installed over the same folder.
Yeah,
So maybe
that's
that
going to
happened.
happen. And that it's going to say it uses the same exact location for the save data, which is what I was saying before installing it, which is why some of those levels were done.
Yeah.
So yeah, AK wide turns is the first of this build that's new, and I think that's how the game is going to start. Something with those really wide tracks that give you much more space for the new user that doesn't know how to drive the track.
Yeah, that's me.
I think it's a lot of people.
All right. So we were talking about Monkey a little bit. So another thing I learned from watching you a little bit is that you also do a lot of scripting for your bots on your channel.
That is what I've been up to recently, far more than I would like. So the project is a little bit bigger than I was anticipating. I wanted to make my chat bot run all the time so that anyone can just jump in my chat and run schedule or whatever other commands and get a response, and separate it from the overlay, which is where the virtual monkey bird lives, and some other bits of cool information like fireworks or little things that I have on my stream that kind of spice it up and inform people of things.
A couple of ones that I remember is the fireworks, and also this race. Like, it looks like a racetrack, and everybody who's been chatting.
There's a racetrack when somebody subscribes, or when there's a giveaway, and if there's a follow event, there'll be a little parade on the racetrack of everybody that has subscribed currently, who's followed today, and the last follower will be the newest followers, the one that triggered the event.
Yeah, it's pretty entertaining. You've got quite a few things going on. You've got multiple cameras. Your voice is crystal clear when you're streaming. You're always sharing what you're working on, whether it's design, whether it's even just back end stuff like your budget and things like that. I mean, you go into a lot of depth on your stream.
I try to share my indie adventure as it is, without, like, good and bad. It is what it is. There's making games as an independent developer is not always fun times.
Hey,
and you're on the board.
you made the board. There you go.
Congratulations. I think what I should probably say at this point is I will include a link to your Twitch channel in the description below on the YouTube video, and I would probably Also, I mean, can you think of any other links I should include in there?
Probably the mailing list one. I think I shot that your way. I may need to find it again.
Right.
But we can definitely set that up. So here's my Twitch.
If you could post that in Discord, I'll be able to copy and paste it later on when I'm setting up the description.
Absolutely. Also need to find this one here. And this is a place that people can sign up to the mailing list to be notified when the game gets released and future games get developed by me.
Perfect. And that's extremely useful to any developer. You're collecting emails, right?
I am collecting the emails to send it out to those people that wanted to sign up for the game. Like, look at that. Even higher in the list.
You're going places, Robert. What I was gonna say is, yeah, we'll get that in the somewhere in the description down below. You might have to see more to be able to see it, but it'll be there. Also, I want to encourage anybody watching from YouTube to check out either my channel or Tim's channel when we're broadcasting. And there's a lot of developers on Twitch that you might not know about. So if you're a gamer, especially, you don't have to be a developer to come in and watch a developer work. I think gamers should be a little bit more informed about some of the work that goes into these games, because the inner thoughts of a gamer is much different than the thoughts of a developer. And I think it would probably be a good exercise for anybody who doesn't know anything about game design to just come in and just see what kind of stuff that we go through just to be able to make these games.
Not to mention, during the development process, it's pretty valuable for the developer to hear from the players that would be interested, because you can hear things before they've got developed too far along to like pinhole you in a certain way of doing things. And if you hear those ideas early, you can kind of work them in.
Right. A gamer's perspective is a lot different than a developer's perspective. So that's why I think I would encourage a gamer to come in and check us out. And anything that you do or say I know Tim, I've known you for about a year now, I think, online. And I can speak for myself. And there's a few other guys out there too, like Mike. And I'm not going to go into a big list, but a lot of us developers appreciate feedback, and not everybody repels it. We don't always hear things that we don't want to hear. And
I gladly take feedback, and Robert's breaking the game right here in a way that I actually do already know about. But I always appreciate hearing others' opinions, even if they aren't what I will go implement, or if they're ripping my game apart. It's something to learn from. I need to figure out how to make games better. Now, obviously, I'm not going to make everyone happy. Nobody can.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody is unhappy in a way that I didn't purposefully choose to go that direction for other reasons, I would like to understand that and, try making it better. Now, if I have my reasons for doing something and that something is what made someone unhappy, then, I kind of got to stick with what I went with.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of questions just came to mind. One, have you published before?
Define published.
Have you ever got a game that you sell and make money online?
Yes, but it's not necessarily player focused. I made Archer in 7 weeks, and it's kind of a support me project. People need to go into that purchase knowing that they're doing it to support me as a developer, not... Archer is a fun game, as I've heard from other people, but it's not the best game out there. Let's go with that.
I can say only that about every one of my games.
It's only $1, but it was done in 7 weeks, and it was shipped basically as is at the end of 7 weeks. And it deserves a whole lot more polish for something that I would be proud of, like, really saying, hey, go play this. So it's kind of a support me project is the way I view that, more than a published game. This is going to be my first like player focused published game.
I would say that it still counts. I mean, because I've got well, the best selling game that I ever made was Save Jesus, and that game I spent 6 weeks making, and then after it published, I spent 3 more weeks updating it. So a total of 9 weeks on that game, and I've still.
I mean, it's not necessarily the
I found a bug.
time scale. You found a bug?
Yeah.
I'm in the finish, but I'm not finished.
Ah. Probably when you go over that line, you will.
Yeah, I bet you jumped around the line is how you did that.
Yeah, you fell right into it from above.
I see how you did it. I don't know if that's actually a problem or not. So what you're doing is you're going around the line and landing in the box. And the detection point is basically going over the line.
Okay, like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if I cross it again, the correct way, it'll work.
Yeah, you do have to cross it the correct way. And right now it's infinitely high, which, as you noticed in the other other level, that's a problem.
Look at this shortcut, crazy. So as I started to say, what I was getting at was, Save Jesus has been successful for me. I've got other games that I spent months on and made hardly any money at all. But it's not the money; it's the experience of publishing and getting, real player feedback. The forums and the support tickets and all the, the full experience of being in a marketplace versus, having fellow developers and other friends in your own personal community just playing your game. There's a huge difference between strangers playing your game and people who, say, hey, good job, pat on the back because I know you,
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And I would say that Archer does not fall under that.
Got a bug.
Okay.
The wheels for a second there were above where they're sitting right now, and the crash sound played over and over again, but it wasn't being damaged. Let's see if I can do that again.
Huh. I'm guessing that you fell fast enough to get stuck in the ground, and that kept your velocity going fast enough that you kept exploding without exploding. These are the best explanations I've got here.
There it is again, huh?
No. I got to restart because I'm 1 hit from death.
Well, that's not a bad thing, Tim. Hopefully it doesn't sound like I'm, I don't mean to like make you feel inferior or anything. That's not my objective. I'm just asking.
No, it's definitely not. It's just in Archer is what it is. It's a support me project. It's not. It was my first released game, and
it's on Steam.
There we go.
It did wind up falling through. No, it's on itch.io.
Oh, itch.io. Okay.
And most people that have bought it have paid more than the $1. In fact, I think the average is somewhere around $8 for it, which is really shocking to me. But that's why I call it a support me project. It's not about the amount of time that went through the development. It's more that its quality isn't quite where I would like it. And it was a lesson learned, huge lesson learned. Without its lesson, my focus would not be where it is today for making Turbo Boom something that I'm not going to feel that way about.
So you say a big lesson. Can you give me a couple examples of some things you learned as a result of doing that?
Basically that by rushing it out in 7 weeks as is, however it was, no matter what, I am creating a game in 7 weeks, period. And then I'm putting it for sale. Initially, I meant to develop the game in 6 weeks. So lesson number 1 that I really learned was you really got to put the marketing thought in your head, first of all, during the entire development, which is why I have Marketing Monday on my stream, where I spend time trying to learn how to market and promote myself, my games, and that whole, get better at that side of the business, because that's what you need as an indie developer.
Really smart.
And that last week, which was supposed to be for marketing, wound up being let me make 2 levels because I only had 1 level at that point in the game. Like, the game only has 3 levels. It was only made in 7 weeks. They are fairly fun to play. The controls do have some quirks to them that I realized a little late in development that I couldn't change at that point. So basically, when the game was released, I was really happy with it. I had worked 7 weeks, put a lot of effort into it for those 7 weeks, and released a game that I was, at that point in time, fairly happy with. Looking back on it in a couple months later, it kind of gave me feelings of, this product isn't nearly as polished as I want my name attached to things. I hold myself to a really high bar, probably too high. So looking back, it doesn't feel where I want things, and thus Rally of Rockets, which was the next project I started after Archer, I was holding to this unbelievably high bar that just wasn't going to work. I went way too big on the project and held myself to a high quality. So with Turbo Boom, I've still holding myself to a high quality, but I've scaled back the scope so that I can actually hit that quality in reasonable amounts of time, which is why you hear me talking a lot about what I'm finding to be valuable versus the production cost. So yes, I would love to have all kinds of different level types in here, caves with lava and ice worlds and all this other stuff, but value-wise to the player versus the production cost for me doesn't balance out to keep it within the scope that I'm aiming for and have the quality I want.
Sounds like some pretty valuable lessons. That came from just feedback or just the feeling, the sensation you got after?
It came mostly from the feelings. There wasn't a whole lot of feedback. Most of the feedback was actually positive. There were a couple bugs that we got to. But most of that feedback was already from the people that supported me. There were, I think, 700 or 800 people downloaded that game that weren't people that necessarily saw it developed, because I did release it for free during a month of 2017, I think it was. So I basically allowed it to go up for free during the summer sale of Itch. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people grabbed it at that point, which was nice, but not many people left feedback, which I kind of expect. Hopefully I'll get more feedback with Turbo Boom. I definitely look forward to...
That's probably one of the big differences between Steam and itch.io is the feedback. Whoa, look at this. It's getting narrow. Skiro Gyro has asked, is there a planned release date for Turbo Boom?
I'm not putting a planned release date on it at this point in time. I want to spend less than 200 hours of dev time remaining on it from now until I start doing release candidates. That's kind of my goal production-wise for the cost-benefit ratio that I've been discussing. That could be January, it could be February, it could be even later. Who knows when that actually happens? I'm not going to rush myself, and I don't think there's any value in putting an actual date on it at this moment.
I wanted to go back to the itch.io stuff because I have no experience with itch.io at all. I'm kind of curious because I don't know a lot about it. When you go to an itch.io store page, I guess is what you call it, do you have the option of getting the game for free, or is there a set price tag? How does the pricing work on games?
You'll have an option of getting the game for free if people have allowed the minimum price to be free. So my minimum price on Archer is $1, except for when I did that free sale. And though it's $1, I think I even put the suggested price as $1, though I might have left the suggested price at $2 or $3. I'm not sure. The minimum price is $1, so that's what you must pay to get the game. most people, as I said, have put $5 to $8 onto Archer. Another good thing about itch.io versus Steam is they give you more of the cut. So itch.io takes 10%, while Steam takes more.
That's awesome. I don't know why. I guess because I used to work with my business partner was into the marketing stuff, and he was totally against itch.io. Well, at least for my games.
I don't know why one would be against itch.io, but as far as player reach, I don't think it's nearly as big as Steam, and I feel like it's more developer centric. So developers buying other developers' games versus a lot of players going there to find games.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that, but that is definitely a hunch that I have.
I'm going to get to the chat in just a second, so don't panic, guys. Just one more question. I'm saying itch.io. You're saying itch.io. Anybody in the chat want to? How do you say this? It's just.
I just call it itch.io because it flows smoother than itch.io to me.
All right, so let's go back to the chat. Human Bean has asked a couple of questions here. Let's see. He wanted to know. Well, you can read the same thing too. I'm going to say it out loud in case our YouTube watchers can't see the chat. I know you've gone over hours on task during your stream. Can you share the total hours of development so far? That's something you want to share.
Absolutely. So on my stream, I will go over all the numbers, and I track all the hours that I put into the game, and I have no problems sharing this sort of information. So far on Turbo Boom, I have spent 468 hours. When I initially started the project, I was aiming for 300 to 500 hours. And if you may have, congratulations, Robert, you got the victory there. You may have heard me already say that I plan for about another 200 hours, and then I'm capping it off. 500 was supposed to be my hard stop, but I'm being a little bit flexible with that because the game needs it. 700 to 750 is going to be my absolute hard stop, and I've got to polish up what I have in that time, period. The reason being is if I spend more time than that, I do not think it will be even possible over the lifetime of the game to make that much money back, unless it became a hit for some extremely unknown reason, in which case I'll continue working on it and add more level packs and all that good stuff. But that's always what happens when you get a victory. The total time cost for that at this moment, or total time cost and expenses that I can share, because there are a couple expenses that I can't share, they're not my data alone, is over $8,000 already.
So you're talking about what you consider your time value.
Yes, my time value on Turbo Boom, and some of the assets that I've bought, or like the sound and some of the art assets I've grabbed, have cost $8,000 at this point.
So you're going to be on multiple platforms, I imagine?
That is the objective. It should release on Windows, Linux, and Mac, and itch.io and Steam at the very least. And we'll see what happens as we get closer to release.
I certainly hope you do well with this. I really think that you have the mindset, because I see you, like I said, I visit I don't even know what you're doing sometimes. I come in very brief moments. I'll hang out for like 5 or 10 minutes, and just sometimes I have no idea what you're doing. But usually I see things like spreadsheets, and you're talking about statistical stuff, or sometimes I see you, like I said, playing a game, or sometimes I see you coding. But you share it all. You're doing you don't do anything behind the scenes, as far as I can tell.
There is very little I do behind the scenes. There are things like writing contract emails to get people to help me, or writing. I mean, we actually wrote most of the publisher emails directly on stream. There were a couple responses I didn't do on stream because at that point it's too specific. When you're sending out a, hey, will you publish me? That's very different than I have you on the line. And I didn't share any information about I have you on the line about like what publisher is on the line or anything, because that could be information that they don't want notified.
Yeah, and I also, when you get into configuring your Steam account, we're not supposed to share our Steam pages, our editing, the back end stuff, the dashboard of Steam. We're not supposed to share that.
Right. I have to read through all that stuff. I haven't even set up my Steam account yet for that purpose.
Yeah.
It is definitely something I need to do at some point here, but there's a lot of things that I want to do before that is waiting on other things.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to explain.
I could just offer a little bit of advice on your game to improve the visuals of your game without much effort. And you probably already know this, so I'm probably not telling you anything new. You could take the same modular race pieces and put different textures on them, right? Obviously.
Presently, there's no textures in the game at all.
Or recolor them?
You could recolor them, and that would be a very easy way to go. Just give all the walls and paint lines different colors, and then you have somewhat different visuals without much effort.
The same thing with a car. I don't know if you have multiple cars in this, but you could have different paint jobs.
I did want multiple cars and multiple car colors, but I think that's going to get scrapped. 200 hours is going to go very fast. There's a couple pretty major bugs that I need to fix with, I mean, as you've seen, the you fall, you die type of thing. I mean, from a huge height, that kind of makes sense, but from some of these heights, it's like, you shouldn't have died. You should be able to just continue going. You're getting stuck in the ground, or you fell through the ground there once.
What were you going to say, Robert?
I said yeah.
Oh, just agreeing.
So there's definitely some bugs that I need to fix to be happy with things, and there you go, you fell through the ground again. Yeah, that's a lot of work. 200 hours is kind of what I really want to finish this in, because another 200 hours, that's pushing the cost really close to $15,000. And in my research, I kind of wanted to keep costs down below 10,000 for production, because I think it's plausible for the game to make 10,000 if everything goes pretty well. At 15,000, I don't think it's going to be plausible to really make all that back. In fact, I think for my first game, it might not even make the 10,000. But that's, it is what it is. Like, it's a learning experience, and
I don't mind saying my experience. My worst games. My worst couple of games, as far as sales go, they were only $2 games. Like Zombie Balls, I think brought in about 6,000. It was the worst, one of the worst games. The worst game I ever published was Hail to the King, and it's only brought in like $300 or $400. I didn't do anything to advertise it. I didn't send out any emails. I didn't even use Steam's, what do they call that? Visibility rounds or whatever they call it. I didn't do anything to promote it, hardly. I just had a couple. I used Keymailer to get some people to play it. So because I didn't have a publisher, it was at the time where my business partner and I made a split. I didn't do anything on the publishing end, really. It naturally, without any effort at all, has brought in a couple $100 basically. And then with effort, the kind of effort that you're going to put into it, anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 on my $2 games, which is not the same as your $2 game. I get it, but from my own personal experience, unless the game goes viral, then you stand a chance of making, tens of thousands of dollars on a Steam release.
Right, and that's basically what I'm not expecting it to go viral in any way. I'm saying like 15,000 is the absolute cutoff, as far as it's super unlikely for it to make more than that based on my market research of racing games.
Well, there's more people that like you than like me. You have a much bigger following, so you probably stand a good chance from just.
But even with a bigger following, that doesn't necessarily mean, like, my following is developers mostly, and I'm not fooling myself there at all. Like, some of them are going to buy my game to support me, and I appreciate that. Like, you don't even like, I can't share that appreciation. But they're developers and they're doing it to support me, not necessarily because they wanted to buy and play Turbo Boom. They're doing it because they know me, they watch the development, and they're like, this guy did a good job, or something along those lines is, I guess, more or less where they're at.
It's not
the money
organic
comes in
sales.
from, yeah, it's not how it works, both long term or how the game will go forward to the public. I need players, and I don't know how to find players.
Yeah, this is something I'm just learning about myself. The game I'm working on is a Dungeons and Dragons type of game, and one thing that I'm starting to realize is, like you, I have a lot of game developer friends and people watching me from a game developer standpoint. And until recently, I'd say in the last 6 months or so, I started, at least on Twitter, started doing posts on Twitter that Dungeons and Dragons players might find it amusing or whatever. And I'm just recently, in the last couple of weeks, starting to realize that maybe I should focus specifically on doing things that interest people who are into Dungeons and Dragons, the game, rather than people who are interested in watching somebody make a game. And that's one of the reasons why you don't see me broadcasting as much as I used to anymore. It doesn't make sense it doesn't make sense from a marketing standpoint to build a following of developers when your product is for gamers. They're two different people. But on the other hand, I think it's extremely valuable to the developer, our friends, and in the same business, the same field as us, to be transparent and share what we do, like what you do and what I used to do. I think it's extremely useful, but it's not really going to make us rich in it. You know what I mean? It's not going to.
I think there's very good value in tending and caring to the developer audience, as I'm doing on Twitch. And I'm definitely not going to be stopping that anytime soon, because they're giving back as I'm giving back, and it's kind of a really good circle that I'm feeling. But you are completely right there, and that was my message earlier, is focusing on developers isn't focusing on who would buy and play your game. And a lot of indies don't quite understand that, so they're making their devlog and they're telling people how they're making their game. And there might be a few super die-hard fans of that particular genre or game that know this developer that are actual players. But for the most part, devlogs and such are developer-oriented, and players don't care about those. So you're not really growing that. I need to talk to racing game players, like like you were saying with your D&D players, focusing on your little D&D game on Twitter, which I thought was an amazing idea, by the way.
Thanks.
Your game fits that genre, so as you build up interest with those, you can then be like, hey, you like D&D and I made this, check it out. And that is definitely a better way to go than here's all my developer friends. But your developer friends also have good valuable points too, because some of them know development things that you don't know. They can either share tricks that will save you time or give you thoughts on bugs that you're trying to investigate. So there's definitely still value there as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree about that. One of the things that I really benefited the most from streaming my workflow was people coming in my room. I didn't like it at first. It took me a little while to get used to it, but people coming into my room and saying, hey, don't do it that way, do it this way. And it, of course, when you're reading it, it's hard to get what's going on. It sounds like they're sometimes, especially if you're not used to it, it sounds like they're telling you what to do. And I used to take it that way early on, and then I started to it didn't happen naturally. It sort of happened through me freaking out and saying, guys, don't tell me what to do. And then eventually people explaining to me, hey, we're not trying to tell you what to do. We're just trying to help. And then finally, eventually I ended up watching other developers and realizing what it was like to be on the other end of the of the stream, watching somebody doing something and the painstaking progress that they go through because they don't really know what they're doing as well as you do, and wanting to tell them, try this, try that, but no matter what you say, it comes across as, well, you're telling them what to do. So I had to learn this the hard way, and I made a fool of myself many times, but what I'm basically saying is I learned a lot. I learned how to control my temper a lot more than I used to. And I also learned how to take constructive feedback and criticism, and above all, how to listen to another developer give advice on tips and better ways to do things without feeling like, they're in the back seat driving for me,
Yeah, I think one of the best ways you can do if you are approaching that situation is first ask if the developer even wants help. Like if they're stuck on something for just a couple minutes, 5, 10 minutes or whatever, they might not actually be looking for the help, because sometimes being told how to solve it in that short amount of time doesn't allow you to find the solution and learn it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just get told and then they, okay, well, I'll do that and continue. And it doesn't really actually help them. It just helps them in that particular moment. Kind of like the whole give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach him how to fish, he eats for life. Like, that's sort of where that comment comes from. You're kind of trying to teach him by giving him that fish, but you're giving him the fish. You're not teaching him how to fish.
Yeah, too, I think it also makes you feel a little incompetent when you are showing a little struggle, but you know that you'll be able to get it. And then somebody comes in and gives you the answer. It just makes you feel like, I would have got that if they didn't tell me, But that's just pride.
I don't think I've ever really felt that one on stream, but I know when I start doing anything web dev related, because I'm not a web developer at all, I have 100 people telling me 100 different things to do the same thing. And it's like, guys, I can't take that, because I can't process. First of all, you're not telling me the whys. You're not telling me how to look it up myself. And I need to learn the process more than just hearing how to make this button blue. Like, I need to do a lot more than just set background color of the button to be blue. Like, I need to actually learn the structure of this.
Hey, Robert, you want to go to the title screen so we have something to look at? Or, yeah, there we go. So, there we go. Turbo Boom. So, I had to learn the hard way. When I first came into this, I was kind of antisocial in the game dev world. I had no idea how to talk to game developers. I really was ignorant to it. I come from a world of, living and playing in bar rooms and being around the music scene and stuff like that. And it's just a completely different lifestyle. And I've always been a developer of some sorts. I was a website developer. I was always making things on the computer for as long as I've been making music, just about. But I wasn't socializing with like-minded people on the computer like I was in the music industry. So yeah, I was really awkward in the beginning. And
I think that's what anybody is when they start something new.
Got something. I probably missed a few questions here. I'm trying to
because you simply don't know what you don't know when you're new.
Yeah, you don't know. I learned a lot, and I'm really, really grateful for people helping me adjust my attitude and be able to take criticism and be able to listen to, provided answers and be open-minded enough to try new things, even though it went against, like, for example, just trying, what was it? Unity Hub. Just Unity Hub. Not a big deal to most people. I pushed people came in my channel and said, why don't you use Unity Hub? And I don't want to use that. And I did this for a long time until eventually I tried it. And the same thing with lots of things like Visual Studio Code. I used to use, Unity's built-in IDE, mono develop. And probably for close to a year, I repelled the idea of anybody giving that advice. Why don't you use, Visual Studio Code? Because I don't want to, you know what I mean? And eventually when I tried it,
because I used to be that way really early on in my career. I wouldn't say probably doesn't fit the exact same example, but I definitely used to be a lot more closed-minded, and this is my way. I'm going to just do it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important as developers to remain open-minded to those things that people are suggesting. Not always to leap on it, because sometimes leaping on those are going to waste your time in the moment or not spend it in the way that you already have your motions and gears working. But to make sure to consider it and to make sure to kind of go back and look at it. Most requests I get on stream that are trying something new, I at least put on my notepad, and as much as I can, if I'm not actually got my gears spinning super fast, I'll try changing them into, let me try what they're saying and see how it works. And by remaining open-minded, you can find a lot of new things. Whereas if you're closed and you never try anything new, like, yeah, you might be getting the pyramids to the top of the blocks to the top of the pyramid by carrying it on your back, and it might be working just fine for you, but that little bulldozer over there does a way better job.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the most valuable things I've learned, or sort of am learning, as a result of streaming. I want to say a couple of things. I'm going to read these questions in the chat. The chat's starting to pile up. So one thing I want to mention before the end of this is I'm going to be doing a new thing on Twitch. As I mentioned, my game is Dungeons and Dragons oriented, and I don't have a day planned or time planned yet, but one day a week I'm going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons online with other people. So if any of you guys are Dungeons and Dragons players and you're interested in knowing more about that, you can send me a private message through my Discord channel, which you can find in the panels down below, and just bring it up, and I'll be sure to have some kind of conversation with you about that.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
So yeah, hopefully that'll be fun. I'm hoping that it's not too much of a burden for me, because I don't want it to, slow down my game design progress or anything like that. So like I said, we're getting towards the end of this. I want to read off some of these questions. One of them was Zingris had asked, how many new bugs did you find today, Tim?
I found, I think, 6 or 7 that I wrote down, and 1 or 2 of them were things I was not aware of, like the falling through the track from great heights. I didn't actually. That's the first time I've seen it.
Okay. And let's see what else we got for questions here. Skiro Jaro. I frame responses in the form of "I would do it this way." Yeah, okay. He's talking about when we were when developers give suggestions or whatever. It still annoys other developers and they get super defensive. It depends on who you are. I mean, I don't want to point anybody out specifically, but I've gone into Twitch channels and said, try this, or if it were me, I would do this, the same kind of thing. And some people blow up at you and some people go, oh, okay, let's try that. And it just depends on the personality. And I'm not denying, man, I've blown up at people. I've actually had to learn this the hard way, and I don't want to go into that again, but that probably is the most important thing I've learned as a Twitch streamer. So Zinger says, the next time, say you're doing it all wrong. Okay, you guys are joking about that. Anything here? Let's see. I may have missed promo video play. Nope. So awkward. Can we play the Turbo Boom promo video? Oh, that would be a good idea, actually. Probably on our outro. I don't know how we'd set that up. I don't have it. So, do you have that in your panels, Tim?
I just shot a link in Twitch chat if you didn't see it.
I'll look for that.
Shot it again.
Okay. And we can do it. Here we go. This is Tim's promo video for Turbo Boom. Loading on my other screen. It's not loaded yet. It's weird.
Not loaded. I don't have control of YouTube.
Okay, here we go. Awesome. So I think we pretty much got 2 hours here. But yeah, it's been really great chatting with you, Tim. And thanks, Robert, for doing all the testing and game breaking in the background.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Robert and Billy. I appreciate you guys having me, playing the game, trying it out, breaking it, giving me feedback, and having a good discussion. It was great to me.
So, Tim, I think in the future, when you're getting ready to publish this game, I'd like to have you back as a guest if you're up for it.
Yeah, that definitely sounds nice. I can polish up all of these issues that we have here and have an actual full playthrough of all the levels instead of 2 builds.
And maybe what we could do next time, since Robert's already done this game breaking thing, maybe what we can do is have me playtest your game.
Sure. Sounds good to me.
I haven't actually played it yet, so I'll hold off so I have a first experience with that, and that could be kind of fun too.
Sounds good to me.
Especially since I love, driving games, so.
Yep.
All right, great. So this has been a lot of fun. We're going to wrap this up. Thanks everybody for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you're on YouTube, and come and check out either Tim or mine or both of our channels on Twitch. We would love to have your company.